The reason I've chosen to take on cannabis issues is shortly after Prop 64 passed in 2016, which quote unquote legalized cannabis in the state of California. I realized how little the regulatory body that was charged with overseeing cannabis knew about the industry, and understanding that they were in the dark about this. It was obvious that we needed legislation to help facilitate and really make sure that all folks, women, minorities, our disabled veterans, have a equal opportunity at the promise of what Prop 64 made. And our initial, rollout of that was far from the truth. And many times with propositions, people were focused on the legalization, but they didn't realize all the other minutia that was involved in Prop 64 that really handicapped and handcuffed individuals from really entering this space. What am I most proud of? I would have to say I would give myself still, or the state of California, I would give us still a D as to full rollout and the promise of Prop 64. I mean, again, it's far too many people who are languishing in this space trying to get up and running. And so, but I would say bringing light to the fact of the lack of diversity. Here's an industry that's 6 years in existence and it's 85% white male dominant. And we should all be concerned about that. Not the fact that it's white men in there, but the fact that it doesn't represent California, a diverse state, the most diverse state in the nation as far as race, gender, and everything else. And they're absent here. If we're going to really realize the promise of what legalized cannabis has been promised in California, then everybody has to have a seat at the table. If we were talking about the criminalization, I should say, of cannabis, it would only be black and brown people sitting at the table. Now, when we talk about the entrepreneurial opportunities for folks, we're totally absent from the discussion and participation. What needs to be done is, again, helping those minority operators, be it women-owned, minority-owned, disabled veterans, stand up their operations. I mean, it's still too many barriers of entry into this, and you need a local license as well as a state license. And we have to make that process far easier. It shouldn't be easier for a doctor to open up a medical facility or a lawyer to stand up a legal practice, but it takes years for someone to open up a cannabis dispensary or grow or whatever the case may be. I mean, no other licensed profession needs a brick and mortar facility before they can begin operating, or before they can even get their license first issued to them. No doctor, no beautician, no barber, so that's part of the problem of passing Prop 64. It was a whole lot of roadblocks and stuff in there that people didn't understand existed there. So we need to really try to clean some of that up. I think what needs to be done on federal level is deregulating it and making sure it's not a Schedule 1. Again, you have almost half the states in America who have legalized it. At some point, we're at a tipping point where the federal government needs to look at it and say, hey, we're working against ourselves. If the federal government is still wanting to make it a Schedule 1, but you have 24, 25 states that already legalized it, the signal should be clear that this should no longer be a Schedule 1. Again, it should not be classified as a drug, as I stated. It should be a plant. And so that's what the federal government needs to understand. And again, I'll harp on the fact that, again, 7 of our first 10 presidents not only grew it, but consumed it. All the social applicant individuals and operators should talk to not only their state legislators, but their local ones as well, and their federal. I mean, and especially on the local level, because for every city that says no to a legal operator, they're saying yes to an illegal operator. And that's where you're finding the biggest influx of illegal operations in those cities that said no to the legal ones. Compton is a prime example of that. And that's what I want local elected officials to understand. They need to say yes to this. This is a revenue stream that they're missing out on. And whether they want to believe it or not, many of their residents use it for medicinal or, just adult use, but they consume that product. And much of the time it's delivered by delivery services where the city is not capturing any of that revenue. But it's a market there, so they need to get their heads out the sand. That's what I wanted to say to my local elected officials, and for many of our state guys, just helping to streamline the process, because it's very cumbersome right now in order to get both a state and a local license, and we need to make that a lot easier, and that's what I'm hoping we do with the legislation we have this year.